What's up, everybody? Professional Wrestler Chris Wild back with another video on a glorious Victory Monday as our Philadelphia Eagles defeated the New York Giants to punch their ticket into the playoffs and becoming NFC East champions for the second time in 3 years. And as my shirt from 4th and John says, Wentzamania is running wild today all over the nation. And this, we talk about Wentzamania and we talk about Carson Wentz, and it reminds me of Hulk Hogan and Hulkamania being a wrestler. Because all season long, just the naysayers are just hitting Carson Wentz, right? Hitting him with everything. You're not good enough. You can't come back. You can't play well in the fourth quarter. You can't stay healthy, and they're hitting him, and they're hitting him. Then they take away all his weapons. No Deshaun Jackson. No Nelson Aguilar. No Zach Ertz. No Miles Sanders. No Jordan Howard. We're going to take away Lane Johnson. We're going to take away Brandon Brooks. And they're just pummeling him. And just like Hulk Hogan back in the day, back in the 80s and early 90s, he hulked up. Carson Wentz hulked up. And finally, he just couldn't take it anymore when they said, you can't make the playoffs. And he pointed that finger and said, and he had enough. And he fought back. He fought back just like the Hulkster in the days. And because of Carson Wentz and a team of practice squad guys that probably wouldn't be on any other roster, and an awesome head coach in Doug Peterson, who's another guy that really hulked up and just pointed his fingers at the naysayers. Got us into the playoffs yesterday. What a win. What a gutsy win, in all seriousness. Back a month ago against the Miami Dolphins, when they lost that game, I said, F this team. I'm done. F this team. F the players, not the logo, right? Well, they looked at me. They looked at the naysayers. They looked at themselves, and they said, F you. That's right, F you. The Philadelphia Eagles said F you to everybody and did what nobody thought they could do with guys that nobody thought they could win with. And they won the NFC East. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, oh, well, they beat 4-12 Giants team. They had to go to overtime at home to beat them. They beat a lousy Redskins team, came down to the last play. They beat the woeful Cowboys with a hurt Dak Prescott. I mean, whatever you're going to say, first off, it's hard to win in the NFL. Let's point that out right away. Second off, they did it with guys. Carson did it without his first-string running back, his second-string running back. He did it with a guy named Boston Scott that nobody heard of before this year. Greg Ward Jr., who was I've well documented on my channel, was a quarterback at Houston that wasn't drafted because of his size. They did it with Rob Davis, who was on the Redskins practice squad this year. It was drafted by the Redskins. They did it with Deontay Burnett, who played his first game yesterday, had a couple huge catches. I mean, Dallas Goedert, second-string tight end, who I think could be one of the best. But and then a makeshift offensive line. They've done it with nobodies, which is the most impressive thing to me. And the mighty E-Rock put up a tweet last night, and I looked at it, and I'll probably post it up here. And Carson Wentz checked off all the boxes, man. I said it, in my opening about the Hogan thing. They said that he couldn't stay healthy. They said that he couldn't make receivers better, that he couldn't get to the playoffs, that he couldn't make comebacks in the fourth quarter. And he's done all that. And I think the most impressive thing to me, and you look at a guy like Tom Brady, and look, I'm not making comparisons yet with Carson Wentz and Tom Brady, but one of the things that Tom Brady did throughout his career was made guys around him better. I mean, name the wide receivers that Tom Brady has won with. I mean, they're not, besides Randy Moss one year, these guys aren't world beaters, Julian Edelman, I believe Tom Brady made Julian Edelman a better player and one of the top receivers in the AFC right now. But it's reminiscent of that, of what Carson Wentz is doing this year. And again, not just Carson, but this entire team has banded together. I mean, Boston Scott, I'm not taking anything away from this guy. He looked absolutely electric. He is the newest Giant killer. He destroyed the Giants the 2 games that they played him. He's been a pivotal piece into this late run. Greg Ward has looked great. This is a team of guys who are hungry. And this is what was missing earlier in the year, was that hunger. I mean, Alshon, whatever he was saying behind the scenes, already has a ring and money. Nelson's getting paid $9 million a year to do nothing and already has a ring. And once those guys went out of the lineup, man, this team just changed. It just did. Facts are facts. Whether we had the easiest schedule at the later half of the year or not for us, this team just banded together. The defense, I said in my preview video, had to make some plays, and boy, they did. They held Saquon Barkley to pretty much nothing for the whole game except for one play, which is a 60-yard take it to the house run by Saquon. And I think that might have, at that point when Saquon made that play, it was 17-17. And I think that might have lit a fire under the Eagles' ass. And not just because he made an amazing play and an amazing run, but because halfway into that run, he had the audacity to pull up the peace sign to the Eagles defenders. Now, I've been following this team for a long time. There's some guys in that defense that do not take disrespect very lightly. Guys like Malcolm Jenkins, guys like Brandon Graham. It's one thing to celebrate in the end zone and do your little flip cup that you completely botched, but it's another thing to do it in the middle of a play. And it seemed like after that, the defense was just all over Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley got nothing the rest of the game. Finally put an end to all of the fapping that the Fox network was doing over Eli Manning. I mean, it was just awesome to be Eagles fan yesterday, to watch Eli on the sideline with his Eli face, unhappy, and Daniel Jones, his heir apparent, getting destroyed, was just awesome to see. And another thing, what makes this even sweeter, and no matter what happens next week against Seattle, and I'll get to that later in the week, what makes this so sweet, winning the East with these guys that just came together, these as Michael Vick called them, C-type players, is that we knocked the Cowboys out of contention. The Cowboys are not in the playoffs because of us. To see Jerry Jones' reaction as his team is playing, watching Boston Scott run it in for that last touchdown that capped off the victory, was awesome as an Eagles fan. I mean, nothing makes me happier than taking this healthy Cowboys team that everyone was crowning week after week after week. No matter how many times they lost, they're still crowning these guys. Oh, if they get in the playoffs, they could go to the Super Bowl. Crowning them every week. Even after we beat them last week, there were analysts, and I'll get to these analysts too. This is why I waited till today to do this video, because I wanted to soak up all the doubters from on all these networks, besides Shannon Sharp, the Skip Baylesses, to see what they had to say. The Orlando Rat Scandrick, what he had to say, and they're all doubling down, and they're all making excuses right now, as I thought they were going to. Apparently, Dak Prescott could destroy the Redskins yesterday, but he was too hurt for us. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And to watch everybody, the Eagles aren't going to win next week. Oh, what is this all for? It's all for nothing. Oh, Carson played horrible against the Giants the first game until the end. I mean, the excuses are just rolling right now. They're just rolling and rolling and rolling. Kind of like the Eagles team is rolling right now. And it's awesome to see. I don't understand how some of these guys have jobs. And I know you can't be right all the time, but I mean, Jesus Christ. They are more wrong than right. And speaking of right, Nick Wright, to watch him sit there, look like an idiot as everyone is just kind of talking about all the accomplishments Carson Wentz has done. It was something to see. It was awesome to wake up to. And speaking of Wentz again, and I'm a Wentz guy, and I don't mean to blow smoke up the guys. That's actually I do, because he deserves it today. Carson Wentz is the only player, and listen to this, Carson Wentz is the only player in NFL history, the 100 years that the NFL has been around, he is the only player to throw for 4,000 yards without a wide receiver having 500 yards. Unreal. It's unheard of. But he's still going to get hate. And I'm so glad, and I love Nick Foles. You look around this, there's Nick Foles shit everywhere. I am so glad that the debate is finally over between Wentz and Foles. And at least in my eyes, and most Philadelphia Eagles fans' eyes, it should be. Even though, Foles obviously brought us to the Super Bowl. Well, won a Super Bowl for us. But what Wentz has done with the guys that he's had, I don't know any other quarterback right now, besides Lamar Jackson maybe, that could do that. I mean, it's unreal. It's unreal. It's unheard of. The dude is just, this is why he's getting paid $34 million a year. This is why he's a franchise quarterback, and why he's the best quarterback in the East. And maybe the best quarterback in the NFC. I don't know. We'll see. I'll have some content later on in the week about the game against Seattle. I think the Eagles have a fighter's chance in that one. But again, we'll see. It's hard to count this team out, because as much as I love Michael Vick as a player, as a former Eagle, not loving what he's done in the past or whatever, but he just sucks as a football analyst. I mean, this dude, he's one of the guys that said that there was no way that Carson Wentz would ever be successful in Philadelphia because of Nick Foles, and that the Eagles were not going to win the East. I mean, he was one of many that were saying that even up to this point. And Carson and the Eagles have proved everybody wrong. Doug Peterson, hats off to Doug Peterson. Look, there are times that I have been down on Doug, man. I've been down on him for making Carson pass so much when, you know, they have a running game. But Doug Peterson has taken these guys, this a ragtag bunch of dudes, and made them believe, man. He's made them believe. No matter what dumb coaching plays he's made in the past, he made these guys believe. And the debate of Frank Reich and John DeFilippo did all 2017, I think that should be put to rest as well. You can stick that in the grave with the full shit, because Doug, I think he has just shown everybody who he is as a coach. I mean, and look, and look, getting back to an argument about who the Eagles played these last 4 games, this is also an Eagles team that beat the Buffalo Bills, who are a good team, and they beat the Packers at Lambeau Field in a primetime game. Let's not forget that either. You know, they beat the Bears, who the Cowboys couldn't beat. You know, I mean, they've won in games they needed to win this year. So look, whatever was said after that Miami game, whether it was my video, which it wasn't, but whatever it was, they have just played awesome. I'm elated, but still exhausted. It was awesome watching them with my brothers yesterday. And look, man, like I said a month ago, F this team. But even though I said that, and even though a lot of Eagles fans said that, the one thing that's great about an Eagles fan is that you never give up on your team and you never give up hope. And whether it was standing in the rain on a Monday night with my father, watching the Eagles face the Giants at the Link, whether it was getting a migraine, nonstop screaming for this team against the Cowboys at a game in the Link with my brother, I have not given up hope, and I still won't give up hope with this team going into a playoffs where they're going to be underdogs no matter what they do. But hey, that seems to be where we play our best, is when our back is to that wall. I'm Chris Wild. I don't know if I don't know if I've said it all, but look, we're NFC East champs, and I think that's something to be proud of. Carson Wentz, tip the cap to you. Round of applause. And look, man, let's make some noise in these playoffs, if anything. Let's get this link rocking. Catch me later this week for some more content about this game. We're going to get in-depth with this game with the Eagles and the Seahawks, 2 teams that are very much beaten up. But the Seahawks are going to be tough. Let's not take anything away from that. But hey, we did it, guys. NFC East champions. Go Birds. Thanks to all the subscribers. Like, share, and tell a friend, because it's going to be a very, very interesting week, and possibly an interesting wild card matchup against those Seahawks. Go Birds.